Hey guys, Brian here. Doing a video kind of in response to Vinyl Ritchie that I saw him do a response to someone else, which gave me the idea. So now I'm going to do a video on it because it seemed like a fun idea. Saw it this earlier, and then I was driving around for work and was thinking about what I should do for it. What I'm doing is top 10 perfect songs. I couldn't pick top 10 perfect songs. Even narrowing it down to stuff I only own on vinyl, since it's kind of the focus of this channel, I still couldn't narrow it down to 20. I had a hard time narrowing it down past 50. So I went ahead, I'm just going to do 20 of them. That works. Alright. Everyone else that's been doing this has been saying like, oh, I could easily do another video or something. I'm just going to do 2 videos in one. So I got stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, newer stuff. They're not in any sort of order, really, except for I'm going to try to separate them by decade as much as possible. So, get started with the stuff from the 60s. I'm going to play little sound clips from them. Hopefully this picks up okay and I don't get a copyright strike for it. But the first one is I Dreamed I Saw St. Augustine by Bob Dylan off of John Wesley Harding. Play. Not that song. Here we go. This is one of his better albums from the period, I think. This whole album is perfect, the whole thing. I could have easily picked, John Wesley Harding, or All Along the Watchtower, or I'll Be Your Baby Tonight, or Dear Landlord, or I Pity the Poor Immigrant. Any of these songs would count as perfect songs for me. But I went ahead with this one. You don't normally see this one. Like, if you read people's lists of the best Bob Dylan songs, this one usually doesn't show up, so something a little different. If you haven't listened to this album, if you like any Bob Dylan, this is definitely in his top 5. I would probably say this is Dylan's second best album. His best album to me is Time Out of Mind, which is just absolute masterpiece. I think it's easily one of the top 5 albums ever made. That was from '97. It's kind of his big comeback album. I'll put this one number 2. Although, if they count, there is the box set, the Whitmark demos of a bunch of his 60s demo tapes. That is easily better than both of these studio albums. But it's not really a studio album. It's kind of a bootleg demo collection thing, so I'm not really going to count it. So yeah, Dreamed of St. Augustine, Bob Dylan. That's song number 1. Let's get with another one. Try to make this video not like 2 hours long. Next one is my favorite song ever made, and I would say, I usually will argue with people, I think it's the best song ever recorded. It is I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free by Billy Taylor. Let's play some of this. It's an instrumental jazz song. As much as I love this song, I honestly don't know a lot about Billy Taylor. I haven't listened to a lot of his other stuff. The rest of this album it's okay, but it's not as good as this. This song, to me, is just transcendent above every other song I've ever heard. I can listen to this song on repeat forever. Like I said, I think this is one of the best songs, if not the best song ever recorded. Alright, so next up, still in the 60s here, where we've got, from Creedence, Clearwater. I'm trying to, play songs here and pick up and record and things. It's complicated. Okay, off of Green River by Creedence Clearwater Revival is not that. Lodi, which I said in my last video is my favorite Creedence song. Off my favorite Creedence album. Try to let it play a little bit until it gets to the really good part. Like I've said, you can't really go wrong with any Creedence. I think they were one of the better, if not the best band of the late 60s, early 70s. Possibly tied with the Grateful Dead. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the 70s. Heard a little clip there. It's a Lovely Day by Bill Withers off the album Menagerie. This is another song, kind of like the Billy Taylor song, that is just so much better than almost all other music I've ever heard. His singing's amazing, the instrumentation's amazing, this whole album's amazing. It was a really hard pick between this and Don't It Make It Better, which I'll put on the same level, but went ahead with this one because I was a fan of this song first. So, Bill Withers, Menagerie. We're in the 70s now. I think I mentioned that. Maybe. Alright. The next one is only slightly behind that Billy Taylor song as far as my favorite song ever. It is by, it's also off my favorite record that I own. Because it's Darondo, and the song is Didn't I. If you don't know Darondo, he was kind of a not very well known soul funk musician from the mid 70s. Recorded an album that didn't really ever get released. There's a couple singles, and then he went on to have like an amazing adventurous life that you should read about sometime. But he didn't really, no one ever really knew his music until, I believe it was the show Breaking Bad featured one of his songs on the soundtrack, and that led to a big resurgence. Like, people knew about him now, and they re-released all his stuff that had never seen the light of day before, and it's great. And on the back of this album, they tell a story about when someone comes to visit him and play him this old album he recorded in the 70s that had never gotten released, and how excited he was to hear it again after all that time. And the song's off that album. This song was released as a single back then, or I think it was a B-side. But anyway, this is Didn't I by Darondo. His vocals are just outstanding. Alright, I'm trying to move things along here. Next is, I'm trying to do like my favorite song. Because to me, like, favorite / perfect, they go kind of hand in hand. There are songs that I like, are an artist that I would say are perfect that I don't like, but I'm not really going into those. I'm going into stuff that I really enjoy. So this is one of my favorite rock songs ever recorded. It was actually hard to find this on vinyl because it wasn't ever on an album, and I had to find it on a compilation that I had to order from overseas because at the time, I found some recently, but at the time I couldn't find anyone in the US that was selling it. So I had to order it from London because it's a British compilation. The compilation is Rocker 1971 to 1974 by Thin Lizzy. And the song is Whiskey in the Jar. I love this song. This is a song that sometimes comes on like my phone when I'm driving around for work. I'll just put it on repeat and listen to it for an hour. Actually, that song is, I have to thank for getting me into a lot of the music I'm in today and broadening my musical tastes, because back when I was in like middle school, early high school, I was big. I only listened to metal music and grunge music, and I'm a child of the 90s. I'm only 30 years old, so Metallica did a cover of that song. And I loved it, and it instantly became my favorite thing Metallica did. And I knew it was a cover, so I went and tracked down, a CD with the original version on it. And then that led me to listening to more Thin Lizzy stuff, who I'd never really heard outside a couple other hits on classic radio, but I didn't know who did them. And The CD it was on was a compilation CD that had like a Bob Dylan song on it, and I liked that Bob Dylan song, so I went and listened to more Bob Dylan, and it just kind of opened up my whole musical worldview, all thanks to Whiskey in the Jar. Next one is a album that I would say the album is perfect, the song is perfect. They're not one of my favorite bands. The song, it wouldn't even be one of my 100 favorite songs, but this, so I guess I am doing one that I'm not a gigantic fan of, but I could say is perfect. And it is the album Aja by Steely Dan. Everything on this is perfect. I'm going to play the song Peg because it's my favorite one. I had a fight with my wife to get this played at our wedding. It's the production on this album is flawless. Like if you're into, I mean, as you can see, I make music. I got keyboards, guitars, a whole shelf full of crap back there. Just from like a musical recording standpoint, and just everything musical about this album is perfect. All right, next up. Come on, stop. All right, next up, about halfway through now, is Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye off of Midnight Love. One of the better soul/funk songs, I would say, but not the best, because that one's coming up next. But here's some Sexual Healing. I mean, most people know this song. It's a classic. You hear it all the time. So next up is my pick for the best funk song ever made. It's not James Brown. It is actually one that I never see on any list of like top 100 funk songs. I like to read that kind of stuff. Almost never see it. See the band often, but not this song. Usually not even this album. It's Funkadelic, and the album is America Eats Its Young. And the song is Loose Booty. Alright, now we're up to the 80s. This one is my favorite song by yet another band that is on the endless list of my favorite bands. Off of what is generally considered their worst album from most things I read. I love it because I love all their stuff, really. But the album is Bouncing Off the Satellites by the B-52s. Ooh, excuse me, I'm behind the record. And the song is Ain't It a Shame. This song, I think, is just absolutely beautiful. The guitar and the singing, and it's a song that can make me cry on occasion. I'm sad that all the times I've seen the B-52s live, they never play this song. I don't think they even play anything off this album, honestly. Yeah, they don't play nothing off this album live. Understandable, it was kind of a flop. This was Ricky Wilson's last album with them, I believe. So good. Alright, that's enough of that. Again, I don't want to get a copyright strike. Next up, we're still in the 80s, is Another band that I love that I've never seen them play this song live, even though I've seen them play live several times. The album is Midnight to Midnight by the Psychedelic Furs, and the song is All of the Law. Try to skip ahead to some singing. Next up is the album is Business as Usual by Men at Work, and the song is People Just Love to Play with Words. This is one of the first CDs I bought. I was into them before I got into metal in middle school. I actually bought this compilation CD that was like all these big hits from 1982. Had this, Eye in the Sky, Rosanna, Gloria, lots of stuff. And it wasn't this song. It was actually Who Can It Be Now? But it was my favorite song on that disc, and I went and picked up this album. They quickly became my favorite band for a good portion of my childhood, and this is my favorite song by them. And I'm still a massive Colin Hay fan to this day. In fact, as I said in my last video, I just recently picked up his new album, Next Year People. Still just as good as he was back in the 80s. And I was thinking about, instead of doing that song, doing a song off his first solo album, Looking for Jack. But I went with the Men at Work instead, because the Men at Work was more influential to me. And next up, we have another artist that I greatly admire and adore. And it's my favorite album by him, which is The Envoy by Warren Zevon. Again, not a popular choice for favorite album by this artist. This album almost ended his music career, and did for a while. It's hard to pick my favorite song off this album, but went ahead and went with Jesus Mentioned, which we'll play a little bit here. I'm going down to Graceland. Almost done. Almost out of the 80s anyway. Alright, next up we have just some good old 80s music. Just nice 80s music. Its album is Spring Session M by Missing Persons, and the song is Destination Unknown. This is another song that when I was growing up, I loved the song, and I listened to it all the time. Alright. 6 songs left. Last one of the 80s. This is my favorite song off my favorite Pink Floyd album, which, as mentioned with, the B-52s one before, and we had the Warren Zevon one. Not the most popular pick for favorite album by this band. My favorite Pink Floyd album is The Final Cut. My second favorite is The Division Bell. But this, a lot of people will consider The Wall the best one. And a lot of people, it's, Dark Side of the Moon or Animals. But a lot of people I know would say The Wall is their best album, because that was kind of the most commercially successful, I believe, at least at the time, because since then I think Dark Side's sold much, much more over the years. But everything that The Wall was, this is like concentrated down from 2 discs to 1. It's everything that was good about The Wall, but more of it and better, I think. Then my favorite song off of it is The Gunner's Dream, which I'll play a little bit of now. Maybe. Here we go. This is a great album to like listen to when you're just driving down the highway, 2 a.m., coming home from somewhere. It's dark. There's no other cars on the road. You can just turn this up to 11 and just drive, and it keeps you awake because it's all nice and kind of sad and slow, and then just boom, there's giant spikes in volume. All right, now we're up to the 90s. Only got a few. Well, actually, we're only doing 2 from the 90s. Because I don't have a lot of 90s stuff on vinyl. Because a lot of the 90s stuff I really love never was on vinyl. Because the 90s were kind of a bad period for that. So most of the stuff is like reissue, which this is. But this is another very influential band on me growing up. My favorite album by then, which again, not a popular pick. It's Green Mind by Dinosaur Jr. And the song I'm going to play is the title track from it, which Green Mind. Jay Mascis is both one of my favorite guitar players, my favorite songwriters, and my favorite singers, so I think this is his best song. And next we have, no list like this you can really do without David Bowie. So, in Grand Brian style, as I've said about 20 times already this video, my favorite album, favorite song from the album, a very unpopular album. Not super unpopular, but you're never going to find it in top 5 Bowie albums, that's for sure. The album is Outside by David Bowie, and the song is Strangers When We Meet. Now, this song is not on the vinyl pressing of this album because the original album is very long. It would be a 2 LP set, and they decided to press it on vinyl as one and take out a bunch of stuff, which is always sad. Especially since they took this song out, because that means that outside of a couple of his newer greatest hits compilations, you can't find this song on vinyl really, or at least on an album. You can find a single version of it because it was on another album before this. He did a soundtrack for a British movie called Buddha of Suburbia, and it was on that album. And he liked that song so much that when he did his next big studio album, he remade the song for it. Buddha of Suburbia was not ever released on vinyl and still hasn't been. Apparently it does exist on vinyl. There was a Brazilian press of it that might be bootleg. I don't know. I've seen mention of it, but I've never seen a picture of it, and I've never found anyone that had it for sale. I wish I did because it's an album I pay a lot of money for. Anyway, Strangers When We Meet by David Bowie off of Outside. I just love the bass line in this. One of my favorite bass lines ever. Luckily, pretty much any Best of Bowie compilation is going to have this song on it. So it is recognized as a great song. Alright, last 3, we're getting up to stuff made after 2000. Actually, all 3 of these were since 2010. So I kind of skipped the 2000s completely. Yeah. The first one is off the album Tell Me by Jessica Leigh Mayfield. This song is called I'll Be the One That You Want Someday. It's the first song on the album. All of her music is just very haunting and beautiful, and I listen to it a lot. It's one of my most listened to records. Alright. I'm trying to wrap this up here. Next one is a lady that I absolutely love. I've seen her play live a lot, and she's amazing every time. I've got to meet her a few times, and she's wonderful. It's Nico Case, and the album is Metal Cyclone, and the song is People Got a Lot of Nerve. Alright, and the last one is actually off a one of my wife's records, not mine, but I love it anyway. I would have bought it if she had not already had it. So my wife's into vinyl collecting too, but her views on it are a little bit different than mine. She actually got me into it. Not well, it's been like 5 months now I've been doing it. That may come back in a second. So she's been collecting vinyl for years, like before we met. I always said it was kind of silly. And she only collects things that she really, really, really loves. And it has to be in perfect condition, like new. She doesn't like buying used stuff for the most part. And so I think last December we went to a record store and she was looking around. And I was like, hey, you should buy me a record because I didn't own any records. And so I looked around and I found a copy of Golden Age Wireless by Thomas Dolby, who's another artist that I adore. I was like, hey, it's like $2, buy it for me. And she's like, okay. And we got home and I listened to it and I was like, hey, this is kind of neat. And so I went out and bought that Men at Work album and that Dinosaur Jr. album the next day. And I was like, oh, hey, I actually kind of like doing this. And now it's 5 months later and I have about 1,000 records and she has about 60. That has taken her 10 years and I've gotten 700 in 5 months. But I am a lot more. I'll be like, I like one song on this, or I've heard of this band once. I'll buy it, and I don't care if it's in great condition or not. Someday I'll make a video showing our record shelf where she has like one section and I have 2 shelves. Alright. But anyway, this band is The Head and the Heart. The album is Let's Be Still, and the song is Let's Be Still. Alright, so those are my 20 perfect songs. I think I definitely missed the point of doing 10 perfect songs, because I did 20, and I think I kind of went off and just ended up doing songs I really like, or songs that are some of my favorites, versus just perfect songs. But I would say those all are perfect songs. These are perfect songs to me. So yeah, thank you, Vinyl Ritchie, for making a video about this, because then I saw it. And I decided to do it, and it was quite fun. And I enjoyed sharing this all with you. And thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time I make a video. Bye.